You have probably had this exact moment. You step out onto your porch, you look down, and there's this heavy insulated cardboard box just sitting on your welcome mat.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. You pick it up, and you can actually feel the cold condensation from the ice packs bleeding through the cardboard. You carry it inside, slice it open, and you see these perfectly portioned little bags of spices, the pristine fresh produce, the vacuum-sealed proteins.
It's all very aesthetically pleasing.
It is. It all just seems, so incredibly neat and tidy. And as you're unpacking it, you inevitably think to yourself, how hard would it really be to start one of these meal kit companies myself?
It is a very natural question, honestly, because the illusion of simplicity is just so strong. From the consumer side, a box simply arrives, you follow a beautifully photographed recipe card, and dinner is served. The whole chaos of grocery shopping and meal planning is entirely contained within that cardboard box.
Right. But the key word there is illusion. Because today, we are going to tear open that neatly packed box and look at the absolute logistical chaos happening underneath. So welcome to today's deep dive. We have a fantastic stack of source material for you today.
We really do.
It's a comprehensive, behind-the-scenes architectural guide on how to build what the tech industry refers to as a Gousto clone app. We are looking at the white label software ecosystem that quietly powers the modern meal kit delivery industry.
And the goal here is to really break that down.
Exactly. Our mission is to deconstruct how these massive food tech platforms actually function, why licensing this software is the new secret to a fast launch, and the hidden logistical landmines of trying to route fresh food to millions of doorsteps without it spoiling.
And the timing for this exploration is critical, I think. If we look at the macroeconomic data in the source material, the food delivery market is currently hurtling toward a valuation of $165 billion by 2029.
Wow, that is a staggering number. A 9.5% annual growth rate pushing toward $165 billion. That stops being a niche tech novelty and really starts representing a fundamental shift in how human beings source their daily calories.
Exactly. But while those valuation numbers are huge, the real story hidden in this architectural guide is how the barrier to entry for founders has completely inverted.
Inverted how?
Well, 5 or 10 years ago, the absolute hardest part of starting a tech company was engineering the digital infrastructure. Building a robust, secure app from scratch was the great filter that kept competitors out.
Right.
Today, the digital barrier is almost entirely gone, and the true test of survival has shifted strictly to the physical world.
So let's get into the mechanics of how that digital barrier disappeared. Okay, let's unpack this. The source material keeps referencing a Gousto clone, and I want to be clear for you listening, this does not mean stealing someone else's intellectual property or pirating code.
No, not at all.
We are talking about white label technology. It's essentially licensing a pre-built software architecture that already has the fundamental features coded in, like, recipe catalogs, user profiles, payment gateways, and delivery routing. It's basically like buying a pre-built house instead of laying the foundation brick by brick.
That is a perfect analogy, yeah.
But my immediate thought reading this was, if anyone can just buy a clone off the shelf, isn't the market going to instantly be flooded with identical boring apps? If we are all using the exact same underlying software blueprint, where is the actual business mode?
That is a great question, but it assumes the software is the product, and it isn't. The source material draws a very sharp distinction here between a proprietary app, like the original Gousto, and the clone model.
Okay.
So the original Gousto app is a massive success, but it is locked into a fixed market in the UK, a fixed brand identity, and rigid proprietary code. The white label clone model, however, simply provides a vessel.
A vessel. I like that.
Yeah, the entrepreneur who licenses it has total control over the branding, the geographic scaling, and the monetization model. So you could do subscriptions or pay-per-meal. The differentiation, the reason you choose one meal kit over another, is entirely in the physical product.
So it's about the food.
Exactly. It's the quality of the chef designing the recipes, the ethical sourcing of the meat, the hyper-local produce.
So the software's only job is to basically become invisible.
Precisely. The software just needs to facilitate the transaction perfectly and then get out of the way so the food can take center stage.
Okay, so if the white label app is structurally identical for every new startup, the only way a founder actually survives in this space is if the software perfectly manages the people using it. According to the architecture guide, who exactly is being managed here?
The platform operates a very distinct three-sided ecosystem. To survive, the software has to flawlessly negotiate the needs of 3 different groups simultaneously.
All right, who are they?
First, the startups, or the founders themselves, who use the clone to test market demand quickly without burning 2 years of runway on software development. Second, the delivery partners, the gig economy drivers navigating the physical world. And third, the customers.
I'll start with you, the customer, because the psychology of why this works is fascinating. The appeal of a meal kit isn't just the sheer convenience of avoiding a crowded grocery store on a rainy Tuesday.
No, there is a lot more to it.
Yeah, the breakdown highlights that it's largely driven by the desire to reduce food waste. You get precise, pre-measured portions. You don't have to buy a $12 jar of some obscure spice just to use half a teaspoon for one specific Thai recipe, only to let the rest sit in your pantry until it turns to dust.
Which we have all done.
Well, absolutely.
It also provides immense financial predictability. It helps users dodge those massive unexpected grocery bills that happen when you wander down the snack aisle on an empty stomach. Right. And structurally, the software allows for extreme dietary personalization. You can filter out allergens, track calories, or mandate a vegan diet with a single tap.
But the only way you get that perfect personalized box on your porch is through the second side of this ecosystem, the delivery partners. And the source touches on gig economy integration, which honestly seems like an absolute nightmare to coordinate.
It is incredibly demanding, yes.
Because this isn't Uber, where you are just moving a person from point A to point B. You are moving raw chicken in a cardboard box.
Exactly. And this is where the logistics get incredibly dense. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this ecosystem only survives if the software seamlessly connects the user's highly specific dietary profile with the delivery driver's routing. The software isn't just pinging an available driver, it is actively managing cold chain route optimization.
Break that down for me. What does the software actually have to calculate before a driver ever puts the car in drive?
Well, think about the physical reality. A gig worker picks up a batch of, say, 15 meal kit boxes to deliver in a specific neighborhood. The routing algorithm has to solve the traveling salesperson problem, finding the most efficient geographic route, but it has to do so against a ticking thermal clock.
A thermal clock? Wow.
Yeah, it has to factor in live traffic patterns, the ambient temperature of a hot car trunk, and the structural integrity of the ice packs inside the box. If the software routes the driver into a traffic jam, the final 3 boxes on that route might spoil before they reach the porch.
So the algorithm is literally calculating the melt rate of the ice packs against the local traffic data.
It has to. And it also has to batch orders intelligently so that all 15 boxes are going to a dense 2-mile radius rather than scattering a single driver across the entire city. The entire ecosystem is incredibly fragile.
Right.
The user's highly specific dietary profile, the warehouse inventory, the thermal limits of the packaging, and the delivery driver's route all have to sync instantly.
Which brings us to the actual mechanics.
Yeah.
To make that incredibly complex, high-stakes ecosystem feel effortless to the customer tapping on their smartphone, what is actually happening on the screen and in the server? Because the tech stack outlined in this guide is pretty dense.
It is. It requires serious technological infrastructure. For the mobile application itself, the interface that you and the delivery driver interact with, the guide heavily recommends using cross-platform frameworks like Flutter or React Native.
Okay, I have to pause you there because historically, whenever developers use a cross-platform framework to write code once and deploy it to both Apple and Android, it usually feels clunky.
That used to be the case, yes.
Right. It never feels quite as smooth or responsive as an app built natively for an iPhone.
Huh?
Doesn't that hurt the premium feel of a meal kit brand?
10 years ago, you would be absolutely right. But modern frameworks like React Native have evolved to the point where they are virtually indistinguishable from native apps in terms of UI smoothness, especially for transactional apps like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The trade-off is absolutely worth it for a startup because it cuts your development time and maintenance costs in half. You have 1 code-based update instead of 2.
Fair enough. Efficiency over absolute purity.
Okay.
What about the back end? Where is all the logic happening?
For the core logic, so the brain handling the orders, the route batching, and the subscriptions, they suggest back-end environments like Node.js or Django. But the most critical piece is the database. They recommend a robust relational database like PostgreSQL. And this goes back to your earlier question about why you can't just use a basic e-commerce site.
Right, the data mapping.
Exactly. In a standard e-commerce store, a t-shirt is a single static item, or SKU. But in a meal kit app, a single recipe isn't one item. It is a dynamic collection of 15 different micro items.
Right, the garlic, the soy sauce, the chicken.
Yeah. Exactly. If you decide to swap out the chicken for tofu in stir-fry recipe, the database has to instantly decrement the chicken SKU, increment the tofu SKU, recalculate the entire nutritional macro profile of the meal, update the allergy warnings, and adjust your final billing price. A relational database like PostgreSQL maps all those complex dependencies so they can be updated simultaneously.
And all of this is hosted on cloud infrastructure, right? Like AWS or Google Cloud, so that when everyone logs in on Sunday night to pick their meals for the week, the servers don't just melt down.
Correct. But the most fascinating technical requirement in the source material is the use of an in-memory caching system called Redis.
Yes, I noticed this. Here's where it gets really interesting. The guide specifically highlights Redis for fast data access and inventory. And my initial reaction was, why on earth does a startup selling vegetables need enterprise-grade, high-speed data architecture? It seems like absolute overkill just to let someone order some carrots.
It sounds like overkill until you factor in the physical reality of a warehouse. In the meal kit world, inventory is a constantly moving target. Let's stick with your carrot example.
Okay.
Imagine it's Sunday evening, an hour before the weekly order cutoff. Suddenly, 500 different users log in at the exact same moment and use that dynamic ingredient feature to swap their side dish from potatoes to carrots.
Okay, so a massive sudden spike in demand.
Right. If your system relies solely on the primary database and it takes even 2 or 3 seconds to process those requests, you have a massive structural problem because user number 501 might look at their screen, see that carrots are still available, and click order. But physically, down at the supplier level, there were only enough carrots harvested for the first 500 people.
Oh, wow. I see. You've just sold a physical object that does not exist.
You have oversold a perishable item that might still be in the dirt at a local farm. The app needs to update the inventory in milliseconds. Caching systems like Redis hold that crucial high-traffic inventory data in temporary, ultra-fast memory.
That makes total sense now.
The absolute millisecond those carrots run out, the 500 first-person screen updates to say out of stock before their thumb can even hit the screen. It prevents a catastrophic chain reaction of unfulfilled orders.
The digital speed literally has to outpace physical reality to keep the illusion of convenience intact. That is wild.
Yeah.
So knowing that the architecture is this intense, we were talking about cold chain algorithms, relational databases, and millisecond caching, what does it actually cost to deploy a white label clone like this?
The financial estimates in the source material are actually quite specific. For front-end development, customizing the UI and UX, you are looking at roughly $15,000 to $50,000. The back-end development, setting up the Node.js servers and PostgreSQL databases, is another $20,000 to $60,000.
I have to stop you.
Yeah.
Because if you look at those numbers from the perspective of a tech startup, a maximum of maybe $110,000 for the entire digital infrastructure, that is incredibly cheap. In the enterprise software world, $100,000 is basically pocket change.
What's fascinating here is you've hit on the exact core insight of this entire industry. The tech is actually the easy part. The software is the cheapest line item on the balance sheet. The digital barrier to entry has completely collapsed, but the physical barrier remains brutally expensive.
The real world.
Exactly. The true cost, and the reason so many of these startups fail, lies in the operational nightmares of the physical supply chain. The code behaves perfectly. The tomatoes do not.
Right. When the pristine digital code meets the messy physical world. The guide actually outlines 3 specific, brutal operational hurdles that founders face the second they launch this app. The first one is something they call complex inventory, but based on our database conversation, it's really about shared ingredient dependency chains.
It is. Think about how ingredients are shared across multiple recipes.
It's essentially a bank run. Imagine you have 3 different recipes on the menu this week that all require fresh basil. Suddenly, one of those recipes goes viral on TikTok, and you get thousands of unexpected orders. Everyone is rushing the bank to withdraw basil.
A run on the basil bank.
Exactly. It completely cannibalizes the supply for the other 2 recipes. So you are entirely insolvent on basil, and customers who ordered the less popular dishes are opening their boxes to find missing ingredients.
That is a perfect analogy. The dependency chain breaks, and your customer trust breaks right with it. The second major hurdle is perishable supply chain coordination. Again, you aren't shipping T-shirts that can sit on a warehouse shelf for 6 months.
Right.
You are coordinating with multiple local farmers and suppliers to deliver raw, fresh ingredients to a central packing facility. You have to manage same-day or next-day packing schedules. If one supplier's refrigeration truck breaks down on the highway, your entire inventory for that week's menu is compromised.
And the third hurdle outlined here seems like it requires actual clairvoyance,
Yeah.
demand forecasting. Because these companies operate on weekly rotating menus, you have to predict exactly which recipes will be popular before the order's even close. You have to balance the procurement of hundreds of perishable items based on historical data and just hope you guessed right.
Yeah, you are buying food before you have actually sold it.
It is essentially a high-stakes game of Tetris, but the blocks are rotting tomatoes, and the timer is the delivery truck schedule.
That's an intense way to put it, but accurate.
One tiny forecasting error, and you either have a mountain of wasted expensive food rotting in a warehouse, or you have thousands of angry customers staring at an empty box on their porch because you underestimated demand.
The margin for error between digital perfection and physical reality is just razor thin. And that tension is what makes this industry so fascinating.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, the next time that beautifully packaged meal kit arrives at your door? It means that building a food delivery startup isn't just a coding project anymore. It's an entry into a highly complex, fast-growing food tech segment.
It really is a logistical marathon.
Yeah. Competitors like HelloFresh, who are known for their flexibility, or Blue Apron, or cheaper options like Gousto, EveryPlate, and Dinnerly have paved the way. But this white label tech allows new players to join the race.
And it leaves us with a rather profound implication for the future, I think. If white label clone technology completely removes the digital barrier to entry for food delivery, the real battleground of the future isn't the app. It's hyper-local physical sourcing.
I love where this is going.
Consider this. What if the next major disruption in food tech isn't a massive national brand with giant centralized warehouses? What if it's neighborhood-level micro-kitchens?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a passionate local chef or even just an ambitious neighbor sourcing ingredients directly from the farmer's market down the street, offering incredibly fresh regional meal kits strictly to a 2-mile radius. The logistics are incredibly tight, the food is miles fresher than anything shipped across the country, and the entire operation is powered quietly and flawlessly by this exact clone technology.
That is brilliant.
The massive scale of digital software could actually allow for a return to physical intimacy in how we eat.
That is a fascinating thought to mull over while you're chopping those perfectly portioned carrots tonight. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden architecture of meal kit tech. We love taking these complex systems and breaking down the why and the how with you. Keep questioning the invisible systems that bring convenience to your doorstep. Take a closer look at the apps on your phone, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.